I'm Alex Dale. How would you feel if you wanted to have children, but you couldn't? You might look to adopt, right? Well, what if you were single, or widowed, or divorced? You still might consider the option, but do you know all the issues that comes with it? The current restrictions and regulations that are inhibiting single-parent adoptions are unfounded on wrong assumptions. On the topic of single-parent adoptions, LoveToKnow.com pointed out some of the arguments that are used. The children will grow up without a mother or father figure in the house. There's instability in the home and the lack of support for the parent. Now, these arguments are relatively unfounded if you actually look into the research. In fact, the same source states a high divorce rate across the country lends support to the argument that single parents can provide stability to children. Another source, FindLaw.com, also supports that the instability argument is relatively unfounded considering the divorce rates. In fact, they also state, with so many children living in single-parent families, adoption agencies have been more willing to consider unmarried men and women for prospective adopters. And as time goes by, the idea of single-parent adoptions have definitely gotten more support, but there's still a lot of issues that it comes with. BrandonGale.com states that about 1/3 of all US adoptions happen to single parents, which is wonderful, but it doesn't simply end there. In fact, they also state that nearly 40% of the single parent that successfully adopted, they had 3 or more unsuccessful attempts before they managed to finally be allowed to adopt. That means it took them multiple tries to be even allowed to start a family and care for a child. And while the current rate of adoption to single parents has definitely grown, there's still so many obstacles throughout all kinds of adoptions. For the foster care system, the single applicant must do much more research into it. Because according to childwelfare.org, whether or not the child can be placed into their home depends on their caseworker and the agency they work with, as they follow the beliefs and policies from their agencies that decide whether or not something is in the child's best interest. And unfortunately, most of the time, they're more biased towards two-parent families. There's also issues for inter-country adoptions. In fact, a lot more when you look into it. There's only so many countries that will actually allow single applicants to apply. Some do, but most don't. And of the ones that do, there's much more tighter restrictions for the single applicants versus married ones. Age restrictions can vary vastly if you're single versus if you're married. And the percentage of children that are actually allowed to be adopted to single parents is much smaller. And some countries only allow single parents to adopt children with special needs. Now, private domestic adoption is the least common adoption for single parents, according to childwelfare.org. In these situations, the birth parents are much more involved, and it's not always the case, but some mothers certainly prefer two-parent families over single applicants. Now, biases have a major impact on the birth mother, but it's not just from them. Their family members, their attorney, caseworkers, or other agencies can also be influencing them to not necessarily look at single applicants as much as married ones. Now, throughout all this, single parents are they care just as much, if not more, than married ones. Referring back to the earlier statistic, 40% that were successful had to try multiple times just to get the chance. And these parents offer the same commitment and devotion to the children, according to adopthelp.com, in relation to their approach to adopt and their capability to provide a stable, nurturing, and kind home for the children. They also mention that single parents accept the help from other family members as well as friends much more, which will certainly help with the stability in the home and the support of the parent. All children deserve good homes, and single parents can certainly provide that for them. In fact, BrandonGale.com also shares that single parents are one of the groups that adopt special needs children the most. And while some might think special needs children require two parents, they have that extra support system, an extra network to make sure they provide the right needs for their child. Specifically, they also state that most single parent applicants have emotional stability and a supportive network of a family and friends that will help them raise an adopted child. Not only do they adopt special needs children more, they also adopt older kids, which unfortunately, depending on their system, will age out of them. Their age will age out of the system. In fact, Love to Know brings up a good point when they state that single parents can fill the extreme shortage of parents for special needs and older children. And like I said, many single parents are more than willing to adopt older kids. It's important to note that in this case, referring to children as special needs can also mean referring to them as being removed from abusive households. Now let's review what I've covered today. I've told you about the arguments non-supporters have. I've mentioned some of the issues that they face, and I've also shown how much commitment and support single parents have to their adopted children. It's been shown single applicants are just as qualified, if not more, than married ones. And these restrictions for single parents shouldn't be as harsh as they are. After all, shouldn't everyone get the chance to start a family?